What's up, guys? Welcome back to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Nvidia, ticker symbol NVDA, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Wednesday, February 14th. Well, listen, Nvidia stock here today, all things considered, holding up tremendously well, only down about a point per share here, up slightly in the after hours, down 0.17% on the day. But if we look after hours here, it is up 3.5 points. But listen, as always, whether it's in your bias or not, we have to take after hours movement with a grain of salt. So sure, if you're a bull, it's up 3.5 points in the after hours. But look, the volume is incredibly low. It's embarrassingly low, right? And that's on all securities, really. We have to take it with a grain of salt for that reason, okay? Of course, though, if I'm a bull, I'd rather have it be up after hours than down. But let's take a look here, starting with the 1-minute chart on Nvidia. By the way, listen, if you get value out of these videos, you appreciate me covering Nvidia on a daily basis. I've been giving this name 5 videos a week lately. Let me know in the comments section. I want to hear that feedback that you like getting these NVIDIA videos every single day. If not, I could always take a recommendation for what to replace NVIDIA with. I really like NVIDIA. I like covering this name. But let me know. That feedback is tremendously helpful. So let's take a look here. Here on the 1-minute chart on NVIDIA, honestly, guys, we got this big rip about 45 minutes after the market opened. You know, we kind of bounced around after we pumped back up, kind of reclaimed that dump into the open, right? And we kind of bounced around, didn't really do a whole heck of a lot, at least in terms of typical NVIDIA volatility. 45 minutes in, we rip higher. And that move higher, reclaiming above what the name had prior to that CPI release that drove the majority of the market lower for the remainder of the day. That's a really, really strong sign. Okay, now granted, yeah, the stock faded, very slowly the remainder of the day, but we still closed above the volume-weighted average price, which I thought was relatively impressive and up after hours, given the macro environment of today's trading day. As far as intraday opportunity here on NVIDIA, this kind of late opening drive pump, for me, kind of shot out of the water a lot of setups that have, I know over time, predictable edge. So for me, I had to pass up on NVIDIA today. I love to trade the name intraday. By the way, completely separate from the bigger picture story on NVIDIA, just a way to generate revenue. But today, this thing was moving, and I like to get out of the way when things are moving like this. So let's move on here. By the way, if you guys want to get my personal scalp setup alerts every single trading day, come trade with our community. That first link in the pinned comment, that'll get you grandfathered in at the current rate. The price goes up over time on all 4 membership variations, but whatever price you join at is the price you will stay at forever for as long as you retain your membership. Now, looking here at the 5-minute chart, what I want to look at again is volume. Okay, we're always looking for volume that helps to confirm a particular bias, whether that be bullish or bearish, and it has to correlate with a very obvious move in one direction or the other. So you see here, upon the CPI release, we had, okay volume for pre-market, but it's nothing compared to regular trading hours, especially the morning or what many refer to as power hour, okay? Really, where the volume came in is kind of in this window here. And if you look here, we had that opening drive, 4 5-minute candles, okay? And volume, it kind of tanked off. But you look at these candles here on this upside move, the biggest upside move of the day. We actually saw pretty substantial volume compared to the rest of the candles at that time of day, to the point where I think we can take away that, okay, it's interesting, a larger sample size of the market today seemingly agreed with that upside move when compared to a similar size fade that obviously took much longer. The volume was spread out, of course, but the volume was very substantially lower, okay? I couldn't say that if we saw similar volume on a quick fade, like over here in this window here, but we didn't see that. So I have to say, okay, it looks to me like at least in that period of time, a larger market sample size agreed that NVIDIA belonged higher intraday. Let's now get contextual from a day-to-day perspective as we look into tomorrow and look at the 30-minute chart. This one is incredibly relevant right now. Take a look at this 50-period moving average. sitting right at around 721.90, 722-ish. So listen, looking at this from a bullish perspective, if we see a retest of that 50 period here on the 30-minute tomorrow, I want to see that hold as support, right? Clearly. If I'm a bear, though, I'm looking for one thing on the 30-minute chart, and that's a downside break of the 50 period. Because that downside break opens up a retest potentially of the 200 period, which starts getting us closer and closer back to $700 a share, which if you're a bear is kind of the ultimate goal to break downside off of or through more so. Now, let's move on here to the 4-hour chart. Okay, you can see here that a little less immediate, but you can see that that 50 period here on the 4-hour is about 5.8% away, 6% maybe away, okay? We have to consider that at least on Nvidia, but here's really what I'm looking for on the 4-hour chart. That white line, that 50 period, if I'm a bull, I just want that thing to accelerate upside as quickly as possible. It's taking its time, of course, it's the 4-hour chart. Get it above $700 a share. Okay, get some additional psychological support in that region is my number one concern here on the 4-hour as a bull. If I'm a bear, right, from a bearish perspective, I don't want that thing to get anywhere near 700 because I want, 700 is hard enough to break downside as it is. Ideally, I want as much room between the 50 period and the stock price as possible if I'm a bear, giving it an honest attempt, ideally, to break downside through 7 on its own without any additional psychological support. All right, let's move on now to the most important chart, which is going to be the daily, and talk more macro here. So listen here, similar to what we discussed in yesterday's video, we're right in the middle of a really important channel, 700 to 750. So if I'm a bull on a retest of 700, hold it, bounce hard away, hold it as support. Upon an upside test of 750, I want to see a break through 750, which would also be that all-time high and hold of 750, right? Now, if I'm a bear, an upside test of 750, I don't want it to give up that all-time high or 750. Really, if I'm a bear, I just want to get back below 7. Okay, that's my ideal or my number one priority as a bear. Okay, if I'm looking at that from that perspective. Now, implied volatility, just understand, guys, it is elevated. If you own options or are buying options, just know you run a slightly elevated risk of potential IV crush if we see IV falling. Okay, it would have to fall at a substantial rate, but just know the higher that goes, the higher that potential risk. All right, option sellers, you like IV being a bit higher. Okay, let's now take a look at the options bias. Let's see what the traders are saying in the chain here today. 1.54 million total contracts traded today. 964,000 of those were calls, and 574,000 of those were puts. So you see here the short-term speculators, the 0 to 20 delta range, about 287,000 calls, 222,000 puts. So those short-term speculators also leaning to the bullish side along with that overall call put ratio. If you start looking at that mid to longer term, the 61 to 80 delta, those in the money contracts, and that 81 to 100 delta range, those deep in the money contracts, also leaning to the bullish side here, to the call side. This is interesting that Nvidia is leaning to the call side across the board, all time frames, all delta ranges here today. That's really not what we're seeing. We're seeing kind of the opposite in SPY and the Qs and most securities today. So that's really interesting. But again, listen, around here, always manage your risk. That's number one here. Stay in the game. The traders can, of course, be wrong. Listen, if you appreciate me covering Nvidia as much as I do, I hope to see you subscribe to the channel. It helps out tremendously. You know, we're trying to hit 1,000 in the next week and a half to 2 weeks, and I think we can blow that out of the water with your help. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.